I would like to suggest to my fellow members of Anonymous that we rename this day the Gerard Ryan Free Day, because this is the first time that I'm aware of that he hasn't appeared, which means that he's either around the pole in Gilman Springs doing penance, or he's been taken in for rehabilitation in St. Hill for a little bit of operational reasons to rejig the head since the release of the book. And I would hopefully suggest to you that we should rename it Gerard Ryan Free Day today, because we have up to now had not one single Saturday where the poor fella has to be writing up his notes and sending hate mail to the cops about us. So anyway, I would like now to give you a small introduction to a new book which just been published, which is just available down the road. I'm not working for reasons by any means, but if any of you wish to get this book immediately, I would suggest you can get it just down the road in the Irish section. It's called The Complexâ, an insider's expose of the covert world of the Church of Scientology by John Duignanâs, a very brave man who has written this book to explain what it's like to be in a totalitarian cult, which would be very similar to what it would have been like to be in North Korea, or to be in a place like that fellow Mohammed, who took the young man and helped him to shoot people completely at random outside various petrol stations in Washington, D.C. The mindset of someone who joins a group like this means that they can't think outside a box, and the box is the writings of L. Ron Hubbard. And I'd like to just tell you the story of how John came out. In 2006, in July, I received an email from somebody called John Duignanâs, who I'd never heard of before. Apparently he had been tracking me through many years because he was in charge of operations here for the Church of Scientology, âThe, and he was a member of the Sea Org, which is the organization which you make a billion-year contract to join. He proceeded then to write to me and said, I want to leave Scientology. So I immediately, having had experience with the Mary Johnson case in 2002 and 2003, a lady who took a case against Scientology, and she had a settlement from them. We haven't got the terms of it, but it did an extreme damage because of the fact that they were shown up for what they were, using mental manipulation on this young woman. Subsequently, I said, well, you know, how do I know that you're not some kind of plant? And I then took the chance and I wrote to the place in Scientology, assuming that he was in prison in the RPF camp, which is their former, it's like a concentration camp for Scientology members. And I wrote and I phoned up into the office a fellow called Massimo, who's one of their operatives. And Massimo said, if you don't get off the line within a few moments, I'm going to call the police. I said, well, let's see who can get through to them first. I then proceeded to talk to the police in East Grinstead, and I had to email the issues saying that there's a man in danger. Could they make a call to see if he could be released? Because as John explains in this book, they immediately, when they heard that he was released, they tried to find him. He went underground. I talked to him on the phone in Birmingham, and he was in a very sad state. He was living at a kind of a roadhouse cafe. He moved to the Irish section of Birmingham where the Scientologists wouldn't be normally found. And he began a life of about a couple of weeks. But at that point, a person whose brother had been in Scientology made some funds available just to keep him going. He tried to completely clean off his computer without obviously affecting the hard drive, which he wouldn't know what they would do with that, but he put as much information as he could to scramble it as he could, and then he basically threw his mobile phone into a skip, and he managed to give the impression that he was in Ireland. And so the next day a hit squad arrived, a Scientology group were seen in the street in Carrigaline, County Cork, where he grew up with his step-parents, and they saw them using some form of electrical device to monitor calls coming in to the home. This was in July 2006. I immediately contacted the superintendent of police in that area of the Garde to notify them that this group was operating in Ireland. Now, what he then did was very skillful. He went into a public area of Birmingham where he knew that the head of the Scientology office would be operating. He then proceeded to come down an escalator as the other fellow was going up the escalator. It's like one of these movie scenes. Your man wanted to jump him, but he couldn't because he was going up and John was going down. He immediately went to the station, got onto a plane, and he flew to Dublin. And he went through the excruciating pain of waiting in Dublin in case that somebody would even come in to the lounge to pick him up. And he flew into Cork, and there none of his family met him at the airport, but someone, a distant relative, picked him up and brought him through 3 houses in case there was a group of them waiting for him there. And he then went into a dark place for many months. He was trying to come to terms with what he had been involved with. He was trying to come to a place where he could understand how he had given 22 years of his life to the Church of Scientology, and especially to the Sea Org, which is like a paramilitary organization. In his book he says that he would have killed for that organization if commanded to do so. So strong was the brainwashing that he went through. So he is now, he was someone who was always interested in children, and he saw what the kids were going through. If someone joined the Sea Org and they had a baby, they were suggested that they had an abortion because you couldn't really do the Sea Org work. I last saw the Sea Org in 2001. I was at a conference at the London School of Economics, and interesting enough, in this book John says that the first thing he did when he was trying to research how to get out was the influence of the internet. This is something that Scientology are trying to control, as they try to control the fact that this book is now being banned from Amazon for the moment. This will become another cause for us to take up in the near future. Presumably that's why you, Jared, aren't to be seen today, because you can't stand by the fact of your lack of freedom. You talk about freedom, you talk about the road to freedom, you talk about clearing the planet, but you can't even clear your own garden of the weeds, not to mind anything to do with human nature, because you are enslaving people and bringing them into a deeper depression. And John went through deep, deep depression, and he had to work on that for some time. He luckily met a lovely young woman down in Cork, and the two of them have become partners. That has helped him no end in his struggle for sanity. And also the fact that over the last 2 years, every time I had an opportunity to go to Cork, I would make sure to spend a couple of hours with John, just talking through someone who understood what he was going through. Not that I had been through it, but I could understand the journey, even though I hadn't made that journey myself. And so for him, and there are many other people who have been helped, and the emergence of Anonymous at the beginning of this year has been for him a great addition. And in fact, he makes the book something that he wants to dedicate to them for their outstanding contribution to bringing not just the cult of Scientology, but the issue of cults to the attention of the Irish public, because the Irish public is not yet alerted to the dangers that all kinds of groups represent to our society, to our democracy, and in a declining market. The government has done nothing for 25 years. The infrastructure of help for those of us who are affected by these groups is zero. And that means that people have to struggle to all kinds of means. And I can tell you, as someone who's worked in this field professionally for 25 years, that this is in fact something that is really needed at the moment. And so at this point, we wish John with this book, and we wish Amazon a happy new year, because they're going to need to wake up to the fact that, can you stop banning books